the opportunity occasionally to speak here, but I also speak a lot for businesses and for the military. And I find out that when I go into a group of strangers, if you don't hook them right off the bat, you don't have something to say within the first 3 to 5 minutes, you're probably not going to get them the rest of the time. And that stands true for lots of things besides just speaking. It stands true in sports. Sports teams want to get off to a good start. It's true in music. You know, you want that first song on the new CD to be the best one, so that you can get them to buy it. It's true in a good book. If I'm reading a book and the first chapter doesn't lock me in, chances are I'm not going to go on and read the rest of it. It's true with a person giving a concert. You know that you want that first song out of the blocks to be a good one. If you go to a movie, man, they better hook you in the trailer, or they better hook you right off the bat, or you're not going to go see the movie in the first place. I noticed that this is true in many areas of life. Something simple as buttoning your shirt, this is true. You ever notice that there's only enough buttons to match the corresponding buttonhole? And if you don't start right, chances are you're not going to finish right. And many times you don't know that you started wrong until you get to the last button. And then you're like, now I look like a dork. I got to go all the way back up and start the whole thing off. This is called the shirt button principle. It's a highly sophisticated and spiritual thing that I'm talking about, and it's going to last for the whole next 27 minutes. So it's the shirt button principle. It's very, very important. You got to get it right off the bat. Now, the shirt button principle holds true in many areas of life. It holds true, for instance, in marriage. All of you guys in here that are married, you will know this. You young guys, you ought to write this down, because I'm about to give you profound truth that will change your life right now. Okay? Here's how the shirt button principle works in marriage. I heard this from Gary Smalley, who is a marriage expert, and you know as well as I do as a married guy, if you start the day off wrong, the rest of the day is going to follow. You want to get it started right. So Gary Smalley says, here's his advice. All of us married guys, first thing in the morning, you should roll over, kiss your wife in the morning, and say, I'm sorry. And just put that in the bank, because you're going to need it probably at some time. She can cash it in at any time of the day she needs it. Just roll over and say, I'm sorry. And then at the end of the day, kiss her goodnight and say, you were right, dear. Okay? That's the shirt button principle. It's getting started on the right foot. I've also noticed this true in something as simple and as daily as walking down a flight of stairs. Chances are, if you don't get the first step right, the rest of them aren't going to go so well either. And I know this from personal experience twice in my life. My wife of 26 years is a fairly compassionate, merciful person. I've only seen her laugh twice so hard that she was out of control. And both of those times were when I broke the shirt button principle going down a flight of stairs. The first time, I don't know how long we've been married, I was carrying a thing of laundry, so I couldn't see over it. I had to carry it down the stairs. I missed the first step, and I missed the next 12. Laundry flying everywhere. If you've ever fallen downstairs, you know that it's like life is in slow motion. Things go through your mind that you can't even believe. And I get to the bottom in a heap and look back up, thinking my wife's going to come out and the Florence Nightingale in her is going to go, honey, you're all right. Not so much. She is also on the floor at the top of the stairs, laughing her head off. I could have been fractured. I could have been not moving. Didn't care so much. She thought that was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. Several years later, we were staying at a house of some friends of ours, and overnight it had snowed and iced, and my host, the guy we were staying with, he got up early to go out and shovel and salt his driveway. I wanted to be a good guest, so I thought I'd go out with him. So they live in a tri-level house. So you have one flight of stairs, a landing, and then another flight of stairs. Okay? Their floors are wooden, their steps are wooden. I had on wool socks. Horrible combination. I'm eager, I want to help, so I scoot down to make the turn, and I'm not making this up. My laughing now. My feet went out from under me at the top step, and I landed on my back on the landing. It was horrible. I was in such pain. I knocked the breath out of me. I looked back up to the top of the stairs, and my hostess and her kids, they came out of wherever they were at, truly concerned. My wife comes out laughing so hard. She goes, "It sounded like a piano fell down the stairs." That's the shirt button principle. You get the first thing right, everything else follows. So here's my question. Here's where I'm going with this. When it comes to this church thing, and our spirituality for you as an individual, what's the first one? Now, I'm not talking about becoming a Christian. I'm assuming that you already are. So once you're already a believer, and you have the rest of your life to work out your faith, what's the first button after that? Because I would dare say that getting that button correct is the most important thing. And the question becomes, what's the first step? What's the first button? And all the teachings that Jesus gave, if you had to say, that's the one, that's where we all want to start, what would you say? There was a great explorer in the late 1800s and early 1900s named Sir Ernest Shackleton. And on one of his expeditions, he left a crew of men at a place called Elephant Island, and he was going to leave them there to set up a camp, and he had to go back to England to be able to get supplies to bring back to them. But he promised his crew when he left that he would be back. They knew kind of how long it was going to take for him to go back and what the time frame should be. The problem they didn't know that when Shackleton went back to get goods and to raise funds to come back, 4 times he was stopped from coming back because of the weather. He couldn't get through, leaving his crew stranded on this island until he got back. So many, many months later, he finally, on the 4th effort, he finally made it back to Elephant Island. And to his surprise, he found his entire crew packed and ready to go on the beach. He got in his rowboat, got to shore, and he got his second in command who he had left in charge, and he pulled him aside and he said, how was it that I found you ready? Because you had no idea. It's been months longer than it should have been. And here's what his second in command said. He said, every morning I got up and I packed up my stuff, and I said, get your things ready for us because the boss may come back today. Well, we've been given a promise. Someday the boss is coming back. It could be any moment. It could be any time. So let me ask this question. If Jesus came back today at 4 o'clock and you knew it, how would that change your plans between now and then? If you knew for sure today at 4 o'clock the boss is coming back, how would it change your plans? Would you change what you're going to do between now and then? Would you change lunch plans? Is there a phone call you want to make? Is there a letter you need to write? Is there someone you would want to see because you've known them for a long time and for some reason you've never been able to talk about this God thing, but by God, you know that at 4 o'clock you've got a deadline? Would it change your plans for the rest of the day? And if so, whatever you would do between now and then may be your first one. That may be the thing that we need to get right. What would you want him to find you doing at 4 o'clock? Studying the Bible. Praying. Talking to someone about who Jesus really was. Telling your story. What would you want to be doing? I want to show you a couple scriptures because I thought about nothing else this last week getting ready for today. What would the first button be? And I'm going to share my answer, and you may not agree. That's okay. But this is where I landed after studying and praying for years, and especially the last 5 years of my life. I'm going to show you where I've landed on what the first button is. Proverbs 16, verse 4 says, the Lord has made everything for his own purpose. Acts 13:36, I love this scripture. Acts 13:36 says, now when David had served God's purpose in his own generation, he fell asleep. When God had served his own purpose in his generation, it gives the idea that of all the things that David did in his life, that God had a purpose. Even through his successes and through his massive failures, his purpose stayed the same. And when David finally clicked all the dials and got it right, then God said, well done. Jeremiah 1:5, which is what we named our first child after. This verse, it says, before I shaped you in the womb, I knew all about you. Before you saw the light of day, I had holy plans for you. And then what Dale's been teaching us through the book of Romans in this academic series, and in Romans chapter 12, which is right where we're at, and this is from the Message Bible. I love this verse of scripture. It says, this is Paul talking, and he leaves no bones about it. Here's what I want you to do. God helping you. Take your everyday, ordinary life, your sleeping, eating, going to work, and walking around life, and place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for Him. Not one of the best things. Paul seems to think that being able to take your life, the way that you're wired, your personality, your talent, your time, your successes, your failure, packaging all those things together and just saying, God, use it. Whatever that means, you use it. That's the best thing. That's the first button that you can do for Him. See, I believe in my heart that God has a purpose for every man, woman, and child in this room right now. I absolutely believe it. The hard part, though, on this side of heaven is trying to zero in on what that might be. How do I get close? Because my life has done this windy path thing, and I'm not even sure where I am now. I might have had a dream sometime back, but I can't remember what that dream is. So how do I know now what that purpose is? Well, for most of us, we're living at different levels. One of the levels, in my opinion, the lowest level that most of us live at is what I would call the survival level. The survival level. Most people who live in a survival mode have this mindset. They just get by. Every day is the same as the one before. They're not really living, they're just existing. They put in their time, they punch the time clock, they live for the weekends. They never really have any major goal because life has been a disappointment, so they just go on and pay the bills and do the best they can to get by. Most people, and I would say probably most of us in this room, live at the second level. Live at the second level, and that would be called what I would call the success level. The success level. This is for those of us who've gotten to a place where we live a comfortable lifestyle. It may not be the house we want to live in or the car we want to drive, but compared to the rest of the world, we're successful. If we really knew what the rest of the world lived like, no matter what your current circumstances, you would have to define us as successful. To be able to get up and to be able to sit in a room like this and live in a free country like we do. So you have some possessions, maybe you would have a little bit of career prestige, you have some pleasures in your life, you get a Baskin Robbins when you need it, a cinnamon roll, maybe an occasional Starbucks. We live at a pretty comfortable level. That's a nice success level. But I have a lot of people that I work with in corporations and such who've achieved pretty high success. You know what they tell me? It's not what I call it. I've been charging, I put my family on hold, I put my kids on hold, I put my marriage on hold to drive myself to get to this line in the sand, and I got here and gone. So people write books like that here. The real books called The Success Trap. Another book called I'm So Successful, Why Do I Feel Like a Fake? Another one called Beyond Success, Coping with the Fast Track Orders. These are all best-selling books. Why? Because people have found that living at the second level isn't enough, which leads to the third level, which I believe is the first button. The third level of living is the level of significance. Not that we want to be significant, but that we want to play a significant role in this mosaic that God is putting together with all the people that He's ever created. How many of you would say, I would love to live at that third level? I would like to get to the end of my life and say, I've done something significant. And whether that be a big circle or a small circle, how many of you would say, I would love to get to that level? Here's the problem. How on earth do we do it? The tragedy is that many, many people, in fact, most people, want to get there, but they have no idea on how to get there. And it is my opinion that most people, and I would say many people in this room right now, will never get there for one reason. And the reason may surprise you. Is because we're too busy doing time. We've got too many things on your plate, and they're not bad things. Most of the time, we don't really know what our specific rifle shot purpose is. We just load the calendar with lots of good things. And you find yourself running all week long, and there's no way in the world you can get up in the morning and be able to check off all your to-dos by that night. So you go to bed with this unsatisfied feeling that even though I was busy all day long, what did I really accomplish? And it's because we don't really know how to get there, and we just fill the schedule as much as we can. The problem is that you can fill your life with lots and lots of really, really good activity and totally push your limits. If you were here January the 8th, you know that we declared this year, 2012, here at WCC, as boots on the ground. We want to get moving. We want to help people define what their purpose is. And we're echoing the words of the Apostle Paul in Romans chapter 12, and he says it again in Ephesians 4. Look what he says in Ephesians 4. He said, in light of all this, here's what I want you to do. While I'm locked up here, a prisoner for the master, I want you to get out there and walk. Better yet, run on the road God called you to travel. I don't want any of you sitting around in your hands. Here at the church, the staff and elders for the last many months have been working on exactly what that means. What does that mean on a weekly basis here at a church? And we, the leaders, staff and elders, have also been given pretty direct orders from the Apostle Paul on what that job is that we're supposed to do. In Ephesians 4, 11 and 12, it says, so Christ himself gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors, and the teachers. Here's the job he gave us, to equip his people for works of service so that the body of Christ might be built up. Our job is to do everything we can to help you find your purpose. That's what we're understanding our job to be. You see, churches many times fall into the same category that I mentioned earlier. Many churches that I've worked in, many churches that I know about, they are not really crystal clear on what they're supposed to be doing, so they just pack the calendar with lots of church activity. And while all that activity is really good, it's not a rifle shot about where we're supposed to be going, and we're trying to fight against that. We've been trying really hard the last few months to establish what that purpose is for us. And in the meantime, to many of you who've been around here for a long time, it may seem confusing and sometimes frustrating. And for that, please hear me say, I promise. And Dale and I have only lived in this area for a year and a half. I'll be the one to admit it's been kind of a slow learning curve. Wilmington, Ohio, Huntley County, and WCC. It's been kind of a slow learning curve. So my prayer in the last couple of months has been, God, please, don't let this be about what I want. Let this be about what's right for our church. And that's the driving prayer that Dale and I have been praying. I promise you, your elders have been praying that. Because it's been a learning curve, and it's been mixed with a mixture of trial and error, and sometimes success mixed with confusion and frustration. And we try to listen. We try to listen to what's important to you guys and what's been important in the past, but also at the same time, we're studying. I promise you, none of you have read as many books as we have about what the trend in the church in the United States is headed towards. So we're caught in this teeter-totter, this tug of war between what has been good in the past and what might be good in the future, and trying to wrest those two things together. Let me just say this, because I don't want to say this at the end. Some of you have shared your concerns in a very healthy, positive way, and we want to listen to that. But let me be honest, some of you have shared your concerns with a critical, negative spirit. And it keeps us a weak God. I'm telling you, you are like Charlie Brown's teacher. Out here. Because it's hard to be. Sometimes it's hard to find. So here's what I want to do in these moments. We are pumped up about the rest of 2012. Now I'm going to say way too much for you to remember, so you may want to hop on YouTube and make sure that you heard it right. But I want to give you an idea of where we're going in the next little while. And I'm going to break it down into some categories of personal growth, evangelism, relationships, and acts of service. Those are the big categories that we're going to move forward. So I'm going to give you too much information that you're not going to remember, but I want to let you know that we're trying to plan so many things, and we're going to do them really well. We're not going to pack the calendar with lots of good stuff. We're going to pack the calendar with things that we think might match up to what your purpose might be. So you're not going to want to get involved in all this stuff. You're going to want to get involved in maybe a couple things and just dive in. And the first area is personal growth. Maybe you're at the point in your life where you just need to grow. You're new to this whole Christianity thing. And so I encourage you, you keep coming here on Sunday morning. And you get biblical worship, and you get biblical teaching, and the Lord's Supper. You may want to add to that, come in at the 9 o'clock hour. This building is filled with kids' classes and adults' classes that are designed to help you grow as a person. We are also adding what we're calling drive-through classes. We just got done offering a 2-week class about how to study the Bible, and it went very well. We have a whole list of those other classes that we want to do. Courageous is an awesome opportunity. Even if you've already seen the movie, I ask you to take a ticket here later on and come and see it in community. Because it's always more fun with a bunch of people. We're going to make popcorn. We might even put some butter and salt on it for you. But just bring your kids out and watch the movie with us so that we can have a chance to get to know each other at the same time. In Kids City, there are great plans going on in Kids City. Heather, our new Kids City director, is doing an awesome job. I want you to know that right after church today, the Kids City leadership is meeting to plan Vacation Bible School for June of 2012. Because we think that's an awesome opportunity for our kids to grow and for the kids in the community to grow. And here's something that I'm really excited about. Because of the leadership of Terry Barker, I saw him earlier, he's right over there. Because of the leadership of Terry Barker, we have this awesome kids program called Upward Sports. It's a basketball program that fills our building on Monday and Tuesday night and on Saturday. I mean, kids are in here. My kids have been part of Upward Sports, and I promise you, you parents, there's nothing better in the United States at being able to give our kids scripture in the context of an activity they like than Upward Sports. And it's gone so well that we want to add to it, so we proposed to the elders a 2-year plan. What we want to do in that 2-year plan is by next season, we want to add 5th and 6th grade basketball to what we already have and cheerleading. Okay? By the next year, we want to add the other 2 sports that Upward does, soccer and football. And that means we're going to go out on our property out here and we're going to figure out a way to build 2 soccer/football fields so that we can be the home of Upward Sports in Wilmington and Clinton County. And what that means is we're going to be looking to hire an Upward Sports director over the next 2 years if we can figure out how to do it. Along with that, we want to go out into our tree area where all the beautiful trees are, and we're hoping to put a 1/4-mile walking track in there with mulch to start with and some prayer posts so that when our community's here watching little Johnny or Susie play soccer, moms and dads or people from our community, they can come out to our property. We've been given beautiful property and take a walk and pray and put the iPod on and know that this church is not just for the 500 who are already here, we're here for the entire community. Let's go on to the next slide, evangelism. We've done some great things to try to reach into our community. 517 is probably the biggest thing that we have going. And I encourage you, next Sunday night, February 19th at 5:17 p.m., if this is something that meets in your plan, in your purpose, then I encourage you, please come out next Sunday night. The band is putting together an awesome worship set. We have an entire experience plan. And if you know someone who is an unchurched believer, someone who believes in God, but maybe not the whole church thing, we encourage you, get on the phone and start asking them to come here next Sunday night. We're also going to introduce next Sunday night, I don't have time this morning to explain it, something called the Alpha Ministry. Alpha Ministry is something that started in Europe, and it's now come over to the United States, and it specifically targets people who don't go to church, but believe in God. The Cave, the guys thing that meets up at Casano every Wednesdays, we're starting our first Alpha course this coming Wednesday night. We're going to be the pioneers. We're going to learn it ourselves first, and then hopefully by a year from now, you're going to see Alpha courses all over Wilmington, sponsored by our church, at Skyline, at Wilmington College, wherever we can find a place to have it, Clinton Massey High School, Wilmington High School, any place, because we're going to take Jesus to them, because chances are they're not going to come to us. That's what evangelism is. Let's talk a little bit about relationships. We believe that people grow best in relationships. Last year, you know that when in the summertime, when we went down to Cincinnati Reds ballpark for Faith Day, little WCC in Clinton County, we were the biggest church at Faith Day that day. So we're probably going back again this year. And hopefully it won't be 900 degrees like it was last year. But we're going to go back again this year. Right after the Courageous series, Dale has in the hopper for the month of April through May, we're going to make a huge push towards small groups in our church. We already have several small groups that are up and running and doing very well, but we really believe that all of you ought to be involved in a small group of some kind. So we're going to preach about it on Sunday morning, and we're going to teach about it on Wednesday nights through April and on into May. The Cave is a great place for guys to make relationships. We have a women's Bible study that meets here on Wednesday nights. It's a great place to make relationships. The Larricks are already working on Family Fun Fest for late in August. It's a great time for our church just to come together and put Dale in the dunking machine and knock him down as many times as we possibly can. But it's a great time to do that, and all those things are there. Let's go to the next slide, which is acts of service. This is what boots on the ground is. Christians aren't supposed to just sit on their tables all the time. We're supposed to get up, like Paul said, and run. So we want to provide lots of opportunities you can serve. We need a lot of those opportunities just to do what we do. Okay, we need people to come in at 9 o'clock and help set up the chairs, and we're going to tear down the chairs. We got all kinds of teams that need help. Vacation Bible School is going to need a small army of people to be able to pull it off. But there are other opportunities in our community that some of you are involved in, like the Walk for Life, or like filling the bottles with change, baby bottles with change. Last year we raised about $1,300, and we need us to bring that money in because it's put to good use. There's another Joplin trip being planned in March. Steve Youngman and ACT Ministry are up from Norwalk, Ohio. They're planning on going March the 19th to the 23rd. And they're meeting how many students from California? 50 students from California that are going to come in. And they're hoping to build a bunch of homes because Joplin is still in trouble. And we're hoping to take a group from here to go and join them. We're also working right now with local Habitat for Humanity. This is a really cool thing. We had a bunch with Jim Sprague and I involved with them a few weeks ago. We're working on a project this spring for the local Habitat. What they need is they have resources and they have homes that need to be built. They don't have manpower. We have manpower, we don't have the resources. So what they've done, the average age for Habitat for Humanity volunteers across the United States right now? They can't find help. And we were like, well, guys, we're sitting on help. So here's what's going to happen late this spring. We don't have an exact date yet, but we're hoping April-ish. We're going to have a Sunday morning where some of you are going to be in here doing church, and some of us are going to be out in the parking lot doing church with our hands. Because what they're doing now is they're coming to churches with the materials, and we build modular homes right on our property so they can take it and put it together. And we're working, they're going to come to the cave this Wednesday and explain to us, and we'll have more of those details. The other thing last year, we did for the first time, we did the Christmas blessing store. It was called Take What You Need, Give What You Can. It went very, very well. The whole idea behind the Christmas blessing store was that you all would bring in good and excellent materials that were donated from your house. Some of you brought brand new stuff. We partnered with Bed Bath & Beyond, and they had a bunch of stuff. And we opened a store here for 3 days, and the idea was that people who were in a tight spot for Christmas could come in and take everything that they needed for free. It went extremely well. But we learned some lessons on how to do it better. And we're going to do it bigger and better. Our goal is 3 times the merchandise this week, and we're going to reach 3 times the families. But that leads me to the last thing that I want to say. It's not working. And we want to do everything that we just said while maintaining the balance between classic WCC, honoring the past, and moving to the future. I know a lot of you have been around here a long time, and you've seen a lot of programs come and go, many of which were very important. And I want you to know that if we had unlimited resources and people and money, we would do all those programs, but we don't. If you look in the program, the ministry folder on a weekly basis, you know that we hover right around or less than the budget that we need. And in order to do ministry, one of the necessary evil is we've got to have finances and support to be able to do that. So everything that I've just mentioned kind of hinge on that. We don't have unlimited resource. We try to do the best we can with what we have. I walked around those 3 days, and it was like, man, it went well, and there's people coming in, and the vibe was good, the energy was good, it was like something missing. What would it be that would make this better? So I started praying. And I just want to warn you ahead of time, be careful what you pray for, because God makes the promise. And this nagging thing started entering the back of my mind, and at first I was like, no, God, that's not it. He kept that. And so what the idea that he put in my head, I presented to the elders this week. And then I called a good friend of mine here in the church that's key to making this idea happen. And we talked about it a couple of times and prayed about it. And here's kind of where we landed. We are going to reopen the Christmas Blessing Store this coming holiday season. And we hope to make it bigger and better than we've ever done it, than we did it before. But we also think that the best way to make this happen is if we combine it with something for the community. And what we decided to combine it with is the Christmas Blessing Store with the 2012 version of something called the Baby Christmas Tree. Ron, just to make sure he's not being forced, he's back there. Ron, are we in? We are in, sir. All right. Ron's going to head this thing up. After this morning, I'm thinking about offering an idea for the drama to go with a Gilligan's Island theme. Don't you think? I could be Skipper down the beach. You pick. Mary Ann, Professor, whatever. And so Ron and I talked first, and we sent this out to the elders, and to a man, everybody was like, yes. It just kind of felt like a nagging thing. And gang, it wasn't because we didn't want to do this, we just didn't feel like we have the resources. This year we feel like we have the resources, but let me tell you, it's not going to be an easy thing. Because the physical structure of the tree needs work done to it. It's not ready. And we're going to need people. We're going to need people to invest themselves. And at the same time, we're going to need this Christmas Blessing Store crew. They're going to have to be going in full routine. Let me tell you why. I kind of opened my ears to this. I had a guy come up to me at Christmas time. And he was up in Cave, and he said, Brian, not my plan. But there's a lot going on. I just want you to know that the Christmas tree is a highlight of my family. And then a couple weeks ago, this was the big one. A couple weeks ago, somebody, a lady, dear lady here at the church came in and talked to me a lot. We went out and walked for about an hour and 15 minutes or so. And she just had some great concerns. And she voiced them in a compassionate way at the time of the year. I don't get her ear every single time. And she came to a point where she said, you know what, my family is kind of like this. I can't give the culture. But the one thing that I can give the culture every year that I can count on is mom and grandma. Because they become the Christmas. I think they all have both on their conversation. Right? In Romans 12, Paul says, here's what I want you to do. God help me. Take your everyday, ordinary life, the way that you work, the way that you eat, the way that you speak, the way that you sing, the way that you speak camera, the way that you go to work, the way that you go to school, the way that you do everything, and you wrap all that up. Because my desire as a leader in this church is that we would break down the wall between spiritual and secular. There is no wall. There's no church category and life category. It's all the same. So whether your ministry is part of what is going on here or it's out of this community, Paul is saying you put all that before God. So here's what I want to ask you to do as we close today, because I am way over time. Here's what I want to ask you to do, WCC family. Dive in. You find something that matches who you are and something you get excited about, and you dive in with both feet. And you also verbally and emotionally support the other things that are going on. No, none of this. It's all good. Everything's level. Everything's going to get resourced. But you do something that fits your time, your talent, your passion, and you let that be your first bucket. You look at what we're doing as a church and you say, I can get involved in that. That's something that I can do. But let me say this last thing, and we're going to have the worship team offer this. I am not a hard sale kind of a guy. Never have been. But I suspect that there are some of you sitting here this morning who you never made a decision I've been around long enough in ministry to know, and I've heard people tell me this. They say this. They say, well, I feel like I should get all my junk together and then I'll come to Christ. That's the second part first. You can't get your junk together unless you have Christ. So that's what I'm asking you. If you're not there yet, as we offer this invitation time, that may be your first button. But for the rest of us as a family, as we stand and sing, I want you to take a listen to what you said today, and you're say, I'm in. I'm in. I don't get it all. I know there's more details to come, but I'm in as far as I